Hi everyone, this is Andre with another episode of Localization Podcast. I think this will be episode number 9, if I'm not mistaken. So disclaimer for those who are listening to the podcast for the first time. This is kind of like my solo practice where I train speaking and talking about various localization topics that I discover on social media without a lot of preparation. So I just go over content that's on Twitter and LinkedIn primarily. I try to pick up interesting posts from different companies or different people. And then I try to share the most interesting ones with you. And usually I try to provide some extra comment, or I share my personal experience on the topic if I have something to add. This episode is recorded from Manila in Philippines, where I moved 1 week ago. It's kind of like my extended vacation. I'll be here for 5 weeks, so I want to do a lot of content from here. And my vacation officially started last Friday after I wrap up things with Global Me. So now I have 2 weeks of vacation, so I don't have to do my usual job, so I can only focus on doing my content. And maybe I'll try to squeeze in a little bit of doing nothing. Although I actually was doing a lot of nothing last week while I was still working remotely for Global Me. So instead of just being super lazy and doing nothing, I really want to kind of like experiment with my life. And it's kind of like a test for me, like how would my life look like if I only did content creation, because it's something that I really like. It's a very creative process and I get to do it on my own. Nobody's telling me like how I should do it, what I should do. So I really like this. So I'm actually kind of like thinking like if this test or if this experiment proves to be successful, then maybe after some time when I'm back in Vancouver, I may try to propose like a different setup, like a different job description for myself, so that I have more time to work on the content creation. And I forgot one important thing for those of you who are listening. So this is the first time that I'm trying something new, and I was looking at my YouTube yesterday with my friend, and most of my recent videos are really just like a flip of the podcast, which is basically just like a static image. And maybe I have like these little timers for the different topics, but otherwise it's not very engaging, and it's not technically like good content for YouTube. So what I'm trying this time is that I'm recording actually in 3 different places. Not places, but 3 different three different sources. So first thing that I'm doing, what I was always doing, is that I'm recording my voice on my microphone. The second thing that I'm doing is that I'm recording my desktop so that I can show the articles that I'm actually going through. And the third thing is that I'm also recording myself on my camera, so the content for YouTube will also have my face, and it will also show the articles that I go through. So that's the desktop part. So maybe this will lead to better engagement on YouTube, because I actually still consider YouTube to be my main platform that I want to focus on. It's just that I was just doing the podcast, and I didn't do too many new videos, despite the fact that my first educational video is doing like really great. Like 80% of the traffic comes from search. People are still commenting. They're still viewing the video. I think I will soon maybe get 200 views, and I have like, I think more than 10 hours, or maybe it's like 800 minutes, so even more than 10 hours of watch time on that video. But I still haven't done anything more, and I want to fix that this week. Anyway, I think that's enough for the intro. So if you're listening to this and you actually want to see the process of recording, and you want to look at me when I'm doing the recording, then please head to YouTube and to my YouTube, or just search Andrej Zito, or you can just search the Localization Podcast and you will find something there. And yeah, you will see a lot more, and you will still get the same audio output than you would on the podcasting audio platforms. So I think I'm talking a lot already. So let's start with the content for this week. I think I have probably 5 articles that I picked. And we're going back to Slator because I have 2 articles from Slator. I have 2 posts from Twitter. I think it's 2 posts. Let me check my notes, and oh no! Oh, fuck, what? Okay. Where are we? Yeah, we have 2 posts from Twitter. And we have 1 last article from LinkedIn. Yeah, baby. Okay. So let's start with the first article. I'm gonna take a note right here. And the first article from Slator is "What Makes a Good Post Editor? Research examines activity patterns of over 300 linguists." Now, how would I go and talk about this one? So this research comes from 2 guys from Unbabel, which is, I think they call themselves AI company. They do a lot of MT, and this is research made by Antonio Guiz, who is a research scientist at Unbabel, and Andre Martins, who is Unbabel's head of research. And they published a paper entitled "Translator to VEC: Understanding and Representing Human Post Editors." The paper points to prior research on the effectiveness of post editors, looking at a number of topics, among them the relationship between pauses and cognitive effort, the use of novice versus professional post editors for research purposes, and the impact of post editor behavior, such as planning ahead and mouse vis-a-vis keyboard use on overall performance. So the purpose of this paper was to build on such work and find out whether it is possible to identify a specific post editor based on their actions, whether meaningful representations of post editors could be built that would allow researchers to draw useful conclusions, and ultimately whether these representations could prove useful in predicting the time needed to post edit a document. Good job. I'm just reading so far. The researchers started from the premise that the combination of machines and humans for translation is effective. And then they reference previous studies showing that humans are more productive when post-editing machine translation rather than translating from scratch. I think this is something that was already established as long as the quality of the machine translation is decent, so that the translator doesn't feel like they have to like completely delete the machine translation and basically translate it from scratch, because then it's not helpful. But otherwise, definitely post-editing machine translations is better, faster, and cost-effective for the customers. Moreover, they hypothesized gaining an understanding of how humans perform the task of post-editing and which methods are most effective can help make the human-machine interaction in post-editing even more successful. Okay, so the next paragraph about identifying good post-editors. The study relied on a dataset of more than 66,000 source documents and involved more than 300 post-editors, working from English into French and German. The source documents for translation were customer service email messages sent to Unbabel's translation service. According to the researchers, the dataset was the largest of the kind released to date, and the only one we are aware of with document level information. So customer service email messages. Okay. Oh yeah. I think I checked Unbabel's website, and for those of you who are for those of you who are listening to the audio, I'm actually going to show this on my video, YouTube. So Unbabel is actually, and I think it's right here. Yeah, it says Unbabel seamless multilingual support. So I think their main focus is on translating customer support messages and content. So I'm wondering if where is the article? So I'm wondering if the source documents that they say is something, whether this is like a customer support messages that were sent by Unbabel customers and users to them, so they could basically leverage their own data, or if they used data of their customers. But judging from the amount of customers that they have and the big names they have, maybe it's the first one. I'm not sure, but I don't even think it's important to actually know where this data comes from. The data set was the largest. Okay. So now this is important. This is interesting. The researchers looked at common post-editing operations, such as inserting, deleting, and replacing a word or block of words, and also took into account keystrokes, mouse actions, and waiting times. From the way these operations or action sequences were carried out by individuals, they hope to identify specific post-editors and do so more reliably than they would by simply comparing machine translated text with post-edited text. Yeah, so this is a very key information that I have never thought of, and it's like about like identifying the patterns at which post-editors work. So of course, like if you just compare like the input, which is the machine translation, versus the output, you can still like identify like the changes that were made, and you can compare kind of the quality of the post editors, but it's still kind of like a black box, you know, like you insert machine translation and post edited text comes out. But what these guys did is that they analyzed like keystrokes and mouse, mouse actions, and waiting times. So waiting times probably refers to like the post editors are looking at the text and they're trying to come up like they're basically thinking, like when they are thinking, when they are not taking an action. So it moves the black box into a white box, because you can analyze the way that they do the post editing. And so the most important thing for me when I was reading this is, what if we actually applied similar, how to call it, like pattern collection, or like the way people work, not just to post editors, but would it also apply to translators on their own, or like reviewers? Although like actually translators are probably like shifting mostly to post editors right now, although of course there are cases like where you just translate from scratch. But besides like the linguistic experts, to me the biggest question and idea actually is, what if we actually analyzed how project managers work? Or I mean, like in general, like how everybody works. Like, what are their patterns? Like, when do they think? Like, what apps they're actively using? How are they typing? Writing. Like, writing is like one of the most important part of your job. So it would be actually interesting, like how people write and compose their messages, and also like when it's like, is it different like when they do it to the customers, when they do internally, when they just use Slack or Glip, and how they organize their time, what are their patterns. So this is like really I'm wondering like if anybody actually did any research like that, and if not, how I could actually start like research like that. But it would be super interesting, because like I've been always like for a long time when I worked like in various companies, I always considered myself to be like one of the most efficient people, but I was never like asked or like encouraged like to make other people more efficient. And if I was actually asked to do that, I think I would just basically like kind of like try to like shadow them, like be with them and see how they work. And I'm thinking like if we actually analyzed, or like I don't know, like at first like collect the data, like how people are, like when they're typing, when they're using their mouse, how many windows they have open, how they're switching between the windows. So what I want to say is that project management is not a rocket science. Even without like any pattern recognition or anything like that, I'm pretty sure that most of the things that we do could be somehow structured. Maybe it would be like a big tree, like a decision, how's it called, decision tree or something like that. Like if you encounter this, yes, no, then go here and then go there. You know what I mean? Decision making tree, something like that. How's it called? And wait, where am I going with this? Yeah, so it's not a rocket science. So most of the tasks that a PM does, I think, are, first of all, quite repetitive. Second of all, the decisions that a project manager does, in most cases, could probably be put into a decision tree or somehow pretty much automated. So then the biggest question is, how do project managers operate? Like, let's say 10 project managers come to the office in the morning. What is the first thing that they do? Do they start with the emails? Do they start with the most complex tasks, most challenging tasks? How many meetings do they have? What are those meetings about? Like really like trying to deconstruct what project managers actually do. Because like as a project manager, your main goal is to basically get the jobs done on time within budget and deliver the scope that was requested. Where am I going with this? I have no idea. I'm totally lost. I'm totally lost because I cannot organize my thoughts. I didn't prepare any notes about this part. I just thought that I'm going to just like freestyle talk about how I think the research about post editors could be applied to project managers. And then the other thing, and I still haven't even fully explained the first level about analyzing how project managers actually operate. The second part that I was thinking about, like, because like we have all this AI and everything is trying to be done by a machine, wouldn't actually the work of project managers be a very good candidate to be replaced by machines because of all the previous things that I said? It is repetitive. Depends on each individual customer that you serve and the requests, and kind of like the maturity of the operations that you have in place for a particular customer. So like when you're starting out, there's like a lot of poking around, a lot of learning. So this is where the human comes and they can set things up. But once like the process is like fine-tuned, you should be only as a project manager dealing with exceptions that go beyond the standard workflow, beyond the ideal workflow, or not even like the ideal one, or the one that you have already experienced, and you can kind of like automate the different ifs and elses. And even when it comes to dealing with new things, how would a machine with all the learning and the AI be able to deal with this? Like, would like a PM, if there's like a new situation encountered and the PM would be like, okay, machine, I would do this because of this and this and this. So would the AI learn based off that? And would the AI, would we be actually able to teach the AI to learn how to deal with the exceptions? And then once the AI makes a decision, then evaluate the result of the decision, and based on that, whether it was like a good decision or a bad decision, further improve its learning. I think well that's what machine learning is about, right? I have absolutely like no idea. I'm just like really just like thinking from the very limited amount of information that I have on this topic. But so what is it that I'm actually trying to say? I'm trying to say two things. Number one, like analyzing the patterns like the research did for post editors. I think it's something that should be done for project managers as well. Absolutely. Like there should be like some high level pattern. It's not even pattern. It's more like a high level structure. Like every project manager probably knows like how they approach things, and they do this kind of like intentionally, or what they think they are doing. And maybe they could like describe like, this is how I work and it works for me because of this and this and this. And then we should compare what they think, how they work. We should compare that to the actual data that's collected as they work. So again, what windows are they focused on? How are they typing? How many keystrokes they do? What is the action with their mouse? and try to identify like some patterns, and maybe tie those patterns to the results, to kind of like, so this would be kind of like a quant data, and compare that to quality data, kind of like what do the customers think about this project manager, what do the your colleagues or your vendors or your freelancers think about this project manager. And maybe from all this data you could gather like some, again, just like the research did, like maybe like some cohorts, like different ways how different project managers operate, and maybe based on that we could come up with like some interesting results. But also maybe it's also tied to kind of like a personality of different project managers, because like maybe like the people who are more people oriented, maybe they prefer to have more meetings and they solve things differently, like in a more personal way. Then there are people who are maybe more introverted and they prefer to use emails more. And the question is like, is there a more efficient way to do this? Should everybody be doing it? Or what is like the right way to operate as a project manager when it comes to like your personality? I think that like the personality aspect is like so underutilized. Like I don't know, like most of the, and this is like where, okay, we're going into like a totally different area here. HR sucks, like they just put up like skills, like we want these people, we want a team player, we want a proactive person, and blah blah blah. But what the fuck does it mean? Like what if like your personality, and let's say I'm referring to the key, what is it, Myers-Briggs personality, those four letters. What if let's say you're a project manager, somehow you ended up being a project manager. But let's say your personality, like you're not very good at organizing or like dealing with time, but you are like super great with people or something like that. So in like your performance reports, you would probably get it highlighted as something that you should fix. But should you really fix it? Like if it doesn't like match with your personality, shouldn't the company bank more on your strengths versus trying to improve your weaknesses? And this is like a huge topic that I want to cover, like maybe in like a separate video. And that is like the whole HR thing and how it ties to our personalities, and basically like how people should work so that it aligns with their personalities, and what they should be doing in the first place, so that in the end they are just basically happy, and happy people are more productive. So there are a couple of things here. One is pattern recognition for how project managers operate. Number two is personality. I think that if there was like an HR person or like a group of people who would like really go deep into this, I think the company would be probably performing a lot better if they had this. And of course, like this whole research should be shared with the industry. Because even if you find like the golden goose, is it called that way? Like, let's say you identify like this is the best way how employees should be hired, how they should be trained, and what they should be focusing on within the company. Even if you share this, most of the companies would probably not adapt it. So sharing is not like giving up your secret sauce. So I think I went too far, but I think this is what I was initially thinking, because I picked this article to be the first one, which will be the most talked about. So I will need to do a lot of edits here, and I'm already at 35 minutes and I still haven't even finished the thing. So did I cover the most important parts that I wanted to say? And I don't even care about the article, what it was about, post editing, blah blah blah. Okay, I was thinking about more like project managers. How would I do I need to like talk to someone, and maybe do we need to like reach out to companies and say like, hey, it would be good if we analyzed how your project managers work. Let's collect some data. How would the personality come into play? I have no idea. And then I'm not even starting about landmark, because that's like another different beast. And then you have a data. And I'm thinking like how the AI could, let's say, help project managers. Is the value of project managers that high? No, it's not. And okay, now all my colleagues will probably hate me, but even when I was starting on my own company back then, the whole premise was based on the idea that project managers actually don't add that much value, assuming that your processes and everything is fine-tuned. So right now, like when I go over when I do like preparation for this podcast, I see like a lot of content being created by all the new TMS tools that like do continuous localization. So that is what I'm talking about, because like customer comes in, they submit their request, they submit the files, they give all the necessary information to the system, and then the system like automatically like analyzes everything. They assign the people. Maybe they already automatically create a schedule, it goes out and stuff like that. So only like if you're like very severely under automated, then yes, the project manager is kind of like the pillar of the whole process, because like they have to manually drive the source content through all the stages until it gets fully localized. But if you are more matured and you have more automated solutions, and the team of the people that are assigned, they can actually do like a very good job, then the value of the PM goes down. Okay. Is there something else that I was thinking about? No. Pattern recognition. Second thing is personality. And the third thing is AI. Will AI replace project managers? Should they be replaced? And what can I do about it to start it? Okay, yeah, I'm going to go back to the article so that we are done with this. So going back to post-editing, blah, blah, blah. This was just like my own personal journey into what I think I could get out of this article. I really cannot talk today. I'm sorry. Untapped source of information. So that's another paragraph of this article, still Slater, and still talking about the research from two Unbabel guys. So here we go. The key findings of the study were threefold. First, that action sequences can be used to perform accurate editor identification. Okay, I like it. I think the same could be applied to project managers. Second, that they can be used to learn human post-editor vector representations that cluster together similar editors. I guess this is kind of like creating different cohorts and how people work and edit. Third, and crucially, editor representations can be very effective for predicting human post-editing time. So based on how you work, they can predict how much time you're going to need to edit. Martins explained that being able to predict the time someone will take to post-edit content can give useful in the context of matching linguists to a particular text type. Moreover, according to the Martins, it may also be used to inform customers about how long we expect document to be translated. Well, that's pretty much the same thing, right? Like how much time it's going to take. But this is like what I don't understand. Because like how much time it's going to take, how does that tie to like the quality or whatever? Like typically, like what is the trade-off? Like typically, like you would of course always want someone who can who can post edit faster, as long as the other results are as long as the other criteria are on the same level, assuming. So what is the trade-off? Like if they translate faster, does it mean that the quality is like slightly less? Or like does it mean that like certain maybe like a short time, like very fast translators should be translating something that's very critical, like customer support messages, or I don't know, what is like a fast, like, I don't know, customer generated content or something like that. And for like marketing campaigns that have like longer time, to launch globally, you wouldn't need such a speed. Maybe that's what they meant. Okay, so moreover, they said this: we are currently looking at ways to use this information for human translation quality estimation. That's predicting how good a translation is before sending it to the customer. This will allow us to detect eventual translation mistakes and reassign the task to another human translator. Understanding post-editing strategies also makes it possible to design our interfaces to better promote those behaviors, Martins added. He said one behavioral insight that surfaced during the study was that human post-editors who spend longer times reading before starting to type tend to type fast and to always edit left to right. By contrast, those who type immediately tend to spend time jumping back and forth. So I think this kind of makes sense, because like the people who think about it more, aka spend longer times reading before starting to type, they probably think about like how the whole sentence should be translated and what are the changes that they need to make. So they're going to go from left to right because that's how the sentence flows, right? By contrast, those who type immediately tend to spend more time jumping back and forth. So they probably pick like small things and they change one thing there, like in like, let's say, first part of the sentence, then they go to second part, then they maybe third part, they change something there, and they realize that maybe, oh, now they need to fix something there. So it's more like, so the first people who spend more time before they start typing, to me, it's kind of like, it's more closer to the traditional translating from scratch, because they probably just post-edit the whole sentence in one go, while the other people, they just make small changes here and there. So I'm wondering like which one is better and which one would be preferred, like in which case. They concluded that the post-editing process is a rich and untapped source of information, and it is the researchers' hope that the data set we release can foster further research in this area. Yep, okay. I finished the first article. Yes, finally, it's 46 minutes. I was stuck for a long time, brothers. So that was the first article, with a lot of my ideas on how this could be extended to project managers. Let's go to article number 2. Still from Slater, this is about Facebook. Facebook recently patented its process for measuring machine translation quality. The patent relates to Facebook's method of gathering user engagement data on machine translation output and using this data to improve the quality of its machine translations. Translations appear in newsfeed, in a banner, or in an ad, for example. They may be automatically displayed or hidden until the user requests a translation. The idea hinges on the premise that the more people like, share, and comment on a machine-translated post, the better the translation is assessed to be. If you then add weightings and normalize the results, user engagement can serve as a proxy by which to evaluate machine translation quality. Now, this is just another great example of using the crowd to judge what is better. And instead of just asking the people, is this translation better or no, they actually compare the actual results of people interacting with the content that was machine translated. So it's not so obvious, and it's even better because it's like more subtle. Like you don't know like which output you're being served. So it's kind of like A/B testing, right? You don't know what you serve, but in the back, they're collecting all the data and seeing which content gets more likes and stuff like that. So this is like the quality shouldn't be judged by only a few people, and that's still kind of like the current, not trend, but it's the current standard that you have a translation, then you have a reviewer, and one person kind of like judges the quality, and then maybe someone like from the local offices who speak the language, they look at it and they say it's okay, and then it goes to the public where it gets viewed by, I don't know, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s of people. And it doesn't mean that these few people represent actually the majority of the audience. Anyway, so as I was saying, like I saw this post from Gary Vee, which was about quality versus quantity. And, you know, like he posts like a lot of content, maybe like, I don't know, he says like up to 100 pieces a day across all the different social media. So in this post, he was basically saying that you don't know what quality is, and the only way to determine what quality is and what resonates with your audience is to do like a lot of different content and just see what sticks, you know, because like, and I know this like, and I kind of like realize this like when I do my own thing or like even basically when it comes to like talking to other people, it's like or how you perceive like yourself and what is quality for you. It doesn't mean that it's quality for other people as well. So yeah, I think like the whole industry has this wrong, or like needs to shift or needs to change and transition into a more experiment mode versus then just relying on few people who judge the quality. It should always be the end user and the market to judge what is quality and what is not quality. So that is that. Hello. So that is that, yes. I'll continue with the article. So, Facebook said in the patent that it displays different translations to different groups of users called candidate translations. How one candidate translation performs relative to another tells Facebook which one is preferred by users and therefore better. From here, Facebook can then tweak its models to ensure that the preferred translation is favored, making it more likely to be used in future. Facebook explains the iterative process as being repeatedly applied in order to create a feedback system in which multiple candidate translations are generated using a model. The translations are evaluated for user engagement. The model is modified to favor the translation having greater positive engagement. The updated model generates multiple candidate translations and the process repeats. So as I was reading this, it reminded me of genetic algorithms that I briefly experienced when I was trying to get onto automated trading systems, which are generated by genetic algorithms. And it's basically a continuous iteration process. The other important thing is that beyond assessing which candidate translations are preferred, Facebook may also be able to tell which groups of people prefer which translations. This is a great point. For example, since Facebook often holds information about a user's age, gender, and nationality, it may calculate engagement scores on this basis. According to Facebook, different translations may be generated based on the language patterns of different demographic groups, and an appropriate translation may be provided based upon an identity of a user requesting the translation or a target group identified in the translation request. So this is a very important information, and it goes back to, again, Gary Vee and his emphasis on context and relevance. So again, if we have like a big market, maybe we even say, like, for example, like in our experience, like let's say we have a new marketing content that is aimed for the gaming audience, gaming enthusiasts. But what if like the gaming enthusiast that's like 10-year-old and he needs like his mother to buy him a new processor? The messaging for that person will be probably different than for someone who recently graduated and is jobless, or versus a third person who would be like in his 30s. He's still a gaming enthusiast, but he has his own money. Right? Yes, absolutely. So then it comes to evaluating which translations lead to the best engagement, and what if this metric or this KPI should be evaluated within each different cohort. Does it make sense? Yeah, it does, because like, I don't know, like let's say translation, and let's talk about like if it's a translation model, or just stick to the traditional thing where, like, let's say we have a post editor. So a translation from post editor A or from translation model A performs best, gives the best results across the whole market. But what if the translation from post editor B or from the translation model B performs best within a small cohort of the total market, but because it doesn't do best on the global? What if it means that you're basically giving up on a good quality? It's just that you're going too broad, which again is what Gary Vee says. You have like a lot of vanilla content instead of going very specific and contextual to each user. So again, what are the ideas here? Is that we talk about like experimenting, but what if the experimenting needs to be more contextual and more specific, instead of just saying that A is better than B? What if A is better for overall? So evaluating the quality on a total model would be good for like cost-effective solutions, because like you only want to have like, I don't know, run like one test, or you don't want to segment your translations based on the different cohorts. But then if you actually want to do it really well and you want to go really deep, then maybe you would need to do a lot more experimenting within specific cohorts in a market. Right? Does it make sense? Yeah, I think it does make sense. So this is another kind of like a localization strategy ideas that I don't see implemented anywhere. Okay, let's try to finish the article. In some cases, Facebook shows prompts to users asking them to say whether a translation is usable or understandable. The emphasis on usability rather than ratings is intentional. The inventors found that asking a user to rate a translation often yields inconsistent results because a user may not know on what basis they should be rating the translation. By contrast, asking a user whether a translation was usable or understandable produces more consistent and more useful results. With its method, Facebook is aiming to simplify the usually difficult and time-consuming process of identifying which translations are favored and communicating this information in a way that a machine translation system can consistently apply. It is an alternative to the Blue score, which the Facebook patent points out has several problems. The final part is Slater reached out to prolific machine translation researcher Rico Senrick, lecturer in machine learning at the University of Edinburgh, for his assessment of Facebook's newly patented quality evaluation system. So this is an academic person. Senrick said that he was skeptical about using big data and user engagement to optimize MT. Social media platforms and search engines have managed to show users more relevant content by optimizing for user engagement. I understand why there's interest in using user engagement also to optimize MT. Big platforms get this data essentially for free and it aligns with their business objectives, but I'm skeptical about this direction, he commented. Explaining his position, Senrick added that I'm happy to believe that improving the translation quality will lead to higher user engagement on the platform. I'm less inclined to believe that optimizing user engagement directly will lead to better translation quality. Moreover, he said, with user engagement as its main objective, there is a risk that translation systems will learn to produce text that maximizes user engagement while sacrificing translation accuracy. To give an example, when translating product descriptions in an online marketplace, naively using sales as the optimization criterion for an empty system could reward the system for embellishing a product and misleading users rather than translating the description accurately. So yeah, this is a good point, I think. And I have nothing more to add. I'm running out of batteries and I'm running out of my voice. Anyway, so I'm going to stop the recording now. We'll just do 2 pieces of articles from Slater because I talked a lot and I don't want to go further because I'm kind of like running out of energy. And so this was episode 9 of the Localization Podcast. Just a heads up, as I'm just recording this, I will do a little bit more promotion for this one, especially since I have this video. So yeah, watch out for it. And what day is it today? It's Monday, 11:30 a.m. here in Philippines. So tomorrow is my usual day when I need to release a podcast. And then because I'm 2 weeks behind, I think I will need to do one episode where I just do 2 weeks of content. But I'm actually considering, because like episode 7 and episode 9, I just talked about the 2 most interesting topics that I found, and it was still 1 hour of talking. So I'm thinking that maybe I shouldn't focus too much on the quantity, but rather just focus on the quality, which again is contradictory to what Gary Vee was suggesting. And maybe I should just do like some smaller episodes where I just talk about no, that's a bad idea. The most important factor for me is that I pick articles that actually can spark some ideas that maybe I could put into practice with someone, hopefully within our company, and where I can add a lot of extra thoughts that I have. I don't want to read the articles and not provide anything extra. Anyway, I'm just talking a lot of extra bullshit. So this will be it for episode 9. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if you are on YouTube. And I'll get to the editing right after I do my lunch. And I will talk to you next week. Bye.